Hi, I'm Archana Kamath. In today's session, we will learn about interpersonal skill, which is the sixth life skill identified by the World Health Organization. We will touch on psychiatrist Eric Burns' book, Games People Play, that talks about how to and how not to express feelings. We will address some negotiation techniques such as BATNA and strategies for motivating, influencing, persuasion, networking, and managing conflict. Let me start with the definition of interpersonal skill. Interpersonal skill is the ability to recognize and understand the other person's moods, desires, motivations, and intentions. Let me now hand it over to my team members to read out their chapters.
Hello, I am Akshay Kamath. This article is about a topic called Games People Play, which is a study about interpersonal interactions. It provides a deep understanding of why people behave the way they do. This understanding helps us master our interpersonal skills. Eric Berne, the author of the book Games People Play, defines a game as a series of complementary, ulterior transactions with a concealed motivation. The book covers a good number of games. Some of the games have catchy names such as See What You Made Me Do, Kick Me, Now I've Got You, You Son of a Bitch, Why Don't You, Yes But, Wooden Leg, and so forth. The first game I want to talk about is the wooden leg game. This game is played by an individual who uses his disability as a wooden leg. It is an excuse for not making an effort. This game is played by an employee to hide his incompetence. A sales head might use excuses such as a lack of sales force, recession, or market conditions as his wooden leg. In IT, organizations blame HR for the inability to recruit as a wooden leg for anything that goes wrong in projects. This next game I want to talk about is Now I've Got You, You Son of a Bitch. This game is played by a person who has someone at his mercy. The aggressor uses trivial issues to vent his anger on the victim and blame him for it. This game is usually played by a bad boss who is looking for an opportunity to vent his anger against subordinates whom he dislikes. A small mistake on the part of the subordinate is reason enough for the boss to fire the person and justify his pent up anger. In the case of the game Why Don't You, Yes But, here is a typical conversation. My husband always insists on doing our repairs and he never builds anything right. Why doesn't he just take a course in carpentry? Yes, but he doesn't have the time. Why don't you buy him some good tools? Yes, but he doesn't know how to use them. This game generally ends with a long silence. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Paulo Coelho. When you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself.
Hello, I am Ashwini Pai. Susan Heitler, a clinical psychologist, says that people's responses change based on the words used when conversing. She says, if you start a conversation with "you make me feel," you will get a different response from your listener than if you start the conversation with "I feel." The first statement will make the listener defensive, whereas the second will make the person cooperative. Knowing how to express feelings tactfully is vital if you want to develop close connections and sustain your relationships. How you say in words what you feel can intensify your connections or wreck your relationships. A sentence that starts with "you make me feel" 1. Comes across as an accusation or a statement of blame. 2. Is disempowering. 3. Invites counter accusations. 4. Is based on a misunderstanding about what triggers feelings. 5. Puts you in the listener's focus, thereby taking your attention off the person you are responsible for understanding, which is yourself. 6. Invites anger and defensiveness and leads to argument. The three great ways to express feelings are: 1. If you are feeling mad or angry, calm down before you start talking. Anger invites defensiveness. An angry voice invites an angry voice in return. 2. Do not choose words from the anger family. For example, I am mad, I am exasperated, or I am irritated. Or from the sad or scared families. For example, I am afraid, I am apprehensive, I am worried. If you avoid the words that denote anger, sorrow, or fear, you will be heard without defensiveness. 3. Begin with I feel, I felt, or I have been feeling. For example, I feel discouraged about the way things are going. Let us now go to the word that. This one small word that can convert a feeling into a thought in the listener's mind. The word that indicates that what will follow will be a thought, which is a dry piece of information coming from the brain and not a feeling which comes from the heart. I hope this learning inspires you to consider how you express your feelings. Whenever you hear someone say, "You make me feel," stop before responding. Take a deep breath. Convert the statement in your mind to "I feel" and then respond. You will see magic happening. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Frederick Collins. There are two types of people: those who come into a room and say, "Well, here I am," and those who come in and say, "Ah, there you are."
Hello, I am Deepa Uponi Gokan. Today I am sharing about negotiation skills. Negotiation is a to and fro communication between two or more parties to find common ground. Let me now share with you something called BATNA, a negotiation tactic. BATNA is an acronym for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. BATNA was developed by negotiation researchers Roger Fisher and William Ury in 1981. BATNA is the fifth principle from their book Getting to Yes, Negotiating Agreement Without Giving In. BATNA helps you understand your position against competitors. It enables you to define various alternatives so that if one fails, you can propose another alternative during negotiations. You should complete the BATNA exercise before going to the negotiating table. These are the BATNA steps: listing alternatives, evaluating the alternatives, thinking about the course of action to pursue if negotiation fails, calculating your reservation value or the lowest price you are willing to accept. Let me share with you a story called the Netscape BATNA blunder. AOL America Online was an early pioneer of the Internet. AOL, the most recognized brand on the web in the United States at that time, was looking for an Internet browser to market their products. The top two in the competition were Netscape and Microsoft. The Netscape browser was a market leader, but Microsoft's Explorer was still a fledgling product. Microsoft offered to bundle AOL into their Windows operating system for free. There was no way Netscape could match the Microsoft offer. Were confident of their technology and market superiority. They did not find it necessary to do their BATNA. Jonathan O'Brien, CEO of Positive Purchasing, gives a great list of BATNAs to consider if you are a buyer. Walk away from the deal. Go to an alternative supplier. Buy a different product or service. Delay the negotiation or deal. Change the specifications. Remove a component from the deal. Change the person with whom you are negotiating. Maintain the status quo and keep the current arrangements. Negotiate with another part of the organization. Go above the person with whom you are negotiating. We hope you will remember to do your BATNA before you reach the negotiation table. Visit Harvard Law School's program on negotiation if you would like to study more about negotiation. Let me end this chapter with a quote from J.F. Kennedy. We cannot negotiate with people who say what's mine is mine and what's yours is negotiable.
Hello, I'm Devika Hatangdi. Today I want to summarize two TED Talks on interpersonal skill. The first talk is by Abhishek Gopalka. It is his real life story of how he achieved dramatic results in public health services in Rajasthan state. Abhishek and his team found that the doctors were always absent, drugs were out of stock, and the quality of care was inadequate. They came up with two strategies based on two fundamentals. First, when a promise is made, People commit themselves to fulfill it. And second, people are motivated when there is competition. The first strategy was called the coffee shop strategy. They painted all the clinic walls with promises such as, "We assure you that you will have a doctor each time." This ensured availability of doctors and medicines. The second strategy was called soccer league type ranking. All the quarterly rankings were on public display. Now every district wanted to be at the top of the league and worked for it. These strategies brought in dramatic results. The second talk is by Lee and Renninger, co-founder, Life Labs Learning. Leanne says our feedback should be brain-friendly. The brain does not recognize indirect feedback. It goes on the defensive if the feedback is direct. So Renninger came up with a 4-part formula to solve this problem. Part 1 of the formula is the micro yes. Begin feedback by asking a short question to get a yes, such as, "Do you have 5 minutes to talk about how our last conversation went?" It creates a buy-in. Part 2 is cut out the subjective. Cut out any words that are subjective, such as, "You could be more proactive." Convert the blur words into specific terms such as, "You said you'd get the email to me by 11 and still don't have it." Part 3 is the impact statement. Describe exactly how the event impacted you, such as, "Because I didn't get the message, I was blocked on my work and couldn't move forward." It gives a sense of purpose and meaning which the brain craves. Part 4 is the pose a question. Wrap the feedback message with a question such as, "This is what I'm thinking we should do. What do you think?" This conversation becomes a joint problem-solving situation. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Stephen Covey. "Feedback often tells you more about the person who is giving it than about you."
Hello, I'm Abha Karkal. Today I want to summarize 2 books on interpersonal skills. The first book is Influence Without Authority by Alan R. Cohen and David L. Bradford, professors at Babson and Stanford respectively. The authors say that as a leader without authority, these are the steps you need to follow. The first step is start with the assumption that all are potential allies. The second step is know different currencies to trade with allies. The third step is make each ally central. The currencies you trade are IRC, TRC, PRC, RRC, and PC. IRC. Inspiration-related currency is when you provide meaning to the task by creating vision and goals. TRC. Task-related currency is providing support and resources needed to accomplish the task. PRC. Position-related currency indirectly aids your ability to accomplish tasks thanks to your enhanced position, importance, contacts, and so forth. RRC. Relationship-related currency is when you take steps to strengthen the relationship. PC. Personal currencies is when you enhance your self-image. These are the actions necessary to make each ally central. Evaluate the ally's power over the resources you need to accomplish results. Identify specific currencies that are required to build a relationship with the ally. Trade the identified currencies to influence the outcome you need from the ally. Recognize negative currencies that the allies do not like, for example, not giving recognition or escalating issues upwards. I hope you learn to trade appropriate currencies with your allies to lead without authority. The second book, titled Compelling People, The Hidden Qualities That Make Us Influential, is by John Neffinger and Matt Cahoot, seasoned communications professionals. The authors say that we decide the warmth of another person in 1/10 of a second. Warmth is the perception that someone cares for us. Displaying warmth with strength is key to making us more influential. Too much strength creates fear and distrust. Too much warmth creates a perception of weakness. When managing others, do so from a place of warmth, not strength. Warmth is a more respectful and conducive way to get things done. When in sales, use both strength and warmth to get the deal. Start with warm, then get tough. When things go wrong, begin with warmth of humility, followed quickly by the strength of how we are going to resolve the situation. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. To handle yourself, use your head. To handle others, use your heart.
Hello, I am Pradeep Nadkarni. Today I want to summarize two movies about interpersonal skills. The first movie, Godfather, is about negotiation skills. The movie is about the Godfather's life as the head of the Sicilian mafia. Vito Corleone, the Godfather, is kind to those who respect him but is ruthless with those who do not. Vito often has to negotiate on behalf of those who come to him for help. A powerful drug dealer seeks the Godfather's support in selling drugs. The Godfather is not willing to enter this business, but his son conveys his willingness to do so during the negotiation meeting. The drug dealer attempts to eliminate the Godfather so his son can take over and join him in the drug business. This is what we can learn from the movie. During negotiations, before making any proposals, the most delicate and critical stage is the exchange of information. Vito is not afraid to say what he thinks, and he says it without trying to please the other party, but he also tries not to offend. Reaching an agreement quickly is not easy. Vito sits back, remains silent for a long time, and listens to his counterpart before making a decision. Do not let your emotions influence you. Do not lose sight of your interests or your vision. Good negotiators establish relations. They have a belief that everyone in the world is a potential ally. The second movie, Living Aikido Life, is about conflict management skill. Living Aikido Life is a film about human relationships, respect, love, and peacemaking. 10 world-renowned Aikido teachers share insights into how Aikido can be a beneficial way of achieving peace. There are 6 facets of the Aikido conflict metaphor. Your first reaction to adversity is to resist it. Connection is the first step towards resolution. Go on the mat. The mat is the place where we meet to learn and hone our technique and practice confidence. Through steady practice, we gradually find ourselves. Discovery brings a new kind of power. Finally, we acknowledge that conflict has become our teacher. Through adversity, you discover new perspectives and insights. In Aikido, they say the attack is a gift of energy. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Blaise Pascal. People are usually more convinced by reasons they discovered themselves than by those found out by others.
Hello, I am Shyam Vajekal. I want to share my learning from 2 mythological stories today. The first story Krishna's peace meeting with Kauravas is from the Mahabharata. This is a story of how Krishna followed the rules of effective negotiation. The Pandavas were contemplating on the course of action to get back their lost kingdom. Krishna engineered the entire negotiation process. The first thing he did was to invite all kings who were on the Pandavas' side to explain the circumstances. This built consensus and support. He then chose a suitable messenger of peace to invite the Kauravas for the meeting. Krishna quotes the messenger on how to communicate the message, how to articulate the points in favor of the Pandavas, and how to appeal to Dhritarashtra's judiciousness. This was to ensure that no efforts to restore peace were spared. As anticipated, Duryodhana did not agree for any negotiation. Krishna ensured that the noble persons in the Kaurav team, like Bhishma, Vidur, Drona, etc., were given a chance to assert themselves in the matter. Krishna created a bigger picture of how the world would look after peace and tried to woo their conscience, and also explained what could happen if war takes place. A great example of peacemaking exercise indeed. What can we learn from this story? Number 1, keep your ego aside during a negotiations meeting. Number 2, ensure that all stakeholders are given a fair hearing before the negotiation starts. Number 3, plan how to exit if and when the negotiations fail. And lastly, well-wishers in the opposite team can be useful after negotiations. The second story is about Calliope, muse of epic poetry and eloquence. This story is from Greek mythology. There were 9 muses, the patron goddesses of art, literature or sciences. They were daughters of Zeus, the king of gods, and Mnemosyne, goddess of memory. Calliope, the muse of epic poetry and eloquence, was the chief of all other muses. Calliope was the one who gifted kings with the ability to speak with grace and power by anointing their lips with honey when they were born. This helped them utter true judgments and make wise endings to any quarrel or conflict. What can we learn from Calliope? That eloquence is an art cultivated by the kings. When the kings speak, they display power, they display hope, they display grace, and they display respect for others. Eloquence is using the right words so that it does not create ambiguity. The more the words, the more will be the interpretations. Let me end my reading with this quote from Martin Farquhar Tupper. Well-timed silence hath more eloquence than speech. Thank you.
We hope that our efforts helped you understand the basics of interpersonal skill. A regular listening to this audio will be our reward. Thank you.